December 2021. Dear Diary, I bought BPM in Humble Bundle, but I suck at it. I shan't let the sunken cost fallacy sink in. I must play all the other games, so my purchase is justified. January 2022. Dear Diary, I have made a horrible mistake. Project Wingman turned out to be more addicting than I anticipated. I have already purchased Ace Combat 7 to fill the gap. It worked, but not for long. There are no more flight games alike, and that can be played with mouse and keyboard. I am doomed for eternity to dream about paper jets, aren't I? August 2023. Dear Diary, I give up. The dreams are too crushing. I ought to know what is up there in the sky. I dusted my gamepad that I used twice in my life to play Crash the Bandicoot and Hollow Knight and try to fill the void. Is it even possible? The sky is so vast, and there is only so much air combat one can do before you come crashing down. Let's pick up my time traveling gloves and begin. It's 1995 Japan. Ace Combat is born to see the light of the rising sun, but due to licensing issues on the Western market, it's called Air Combat instead. Iconic guitar riffs powered by jet fuel roar in the sky as you, for the first time in the series, receive an assignment. A cockpit hatch closes and you are thrusted straight into the action. And just for a brief moment, the name Air Combat fits, because you are not an ace. Not yet. First you have to take on 5 enemy pilots and win. Under you pass landscapes reminiscent of puke pools and various other surfaces of suspicious nature. Is it water, ink, mountain dew? Such petty questions fade away mere moments later, with the battle fray fully consuming your concentration. It does not matter what is down there. That is not your concern. The boogie on your 6, however, is. And with the simpler rules comes a quick understanding of the Ace Combat series core gameplay loop. It's a rhythm game. That's right, a rhythm game. Find the target, lock on the target, find a good angle, fire a missile, lose a boogie, find the target. And all of it may be extremely simplistic, but it's neither easy or boring. Have you ever been chased by a dog, barely escaping by hopping over the fence while its engine howls at you from behind? Have you ever felt the rush of breaking a glass with satisfying crunch after shooting a rock from a sling? Air Combat allows you to live through such sensations while sitting in a cockpit of state-of-art fighter jet. Beeping sound gives a permission to arm a missile and fire. All you need is just a little bit of patience to find the right moment. Pull the trigger and after 2 endless seconds of suspense, a satisfying bingo message appears on the screen. The kill is confirmed, yet it provides no reprieve. All that is happening as you're endlessly steering left and right, up and down, constantly calculating what exactly you have to do within the next 5 seconds, because you have to. The plane is an object that's moving forward constantly, whether you like it or not. Find the target, lock on the target, find a good angle, lose a boogie. It's intense, It's exhausting and incredibly cathartic. It's a definition of insanity. Seconds feel like minutes, and minutes feel like seconds. The smell of sweat from underneath your armpits fills the air. Oh, that's why it's called air combat. I see. You have one shot to accomplish the mission, because there are no checkpoints, and one mistake can be your doom, whether it's you kissing the ground or eating a mouthful of missiles. And whether you end up succeeding, flying into the sun, leaving trail of destruction behind, often with your jet holding together thanks to a single rivet, or crushing to your oblivion, each attempt completely enthralls you, just to spit you out sweaty and shaking and overflooded with various chemicals that your body has just released to keep the brain operational. Perhaps I felt as a real pilot feels after a sortie, and even though the game is fairly short, I could only do about 3 to 4 missions a day, because I simply felt like I need to rest on it. I'm old. And all of this highlights the famous 30-second gameplay loop rule long before it was spoken out loud in a well-known interview with Jamie Gerzimer from Bungie. And I quote, "In Halo 1 there was maybe 30 seconds of fun that happened over and over and over again. So, if you can get 30 seconds of fun, you can pretty much stretch that out to be an entire game. And so you can have all the great graphics, and all the different characters, and lots of different weapons with amazing effects, but if you don't nail that 30 seconds, you're not gonna have a great game." End of the quote. To this day, the formula outside the obvious technological advancements and refinements remains practically unchanged, which is a true tribute to how well thought out and executed the concept was. And all of it is happening while this banger blasts in your speakers. Mission design is simplistic, but with firmly defined boundaries. You get to pick a mission from various branching paths. Whether you finish them all or just those leading to the final encounter is entirely up to you. In the mission there are objectives that have to be fulfilled and optional targets, whether in form of additional challenge or an obstacle that stands between you and your objective. You are provided with a limited amount of missiles and fuel. Fuel could be easily understood as time limit, but in a form of abstract measure that is fueling the immersion. The same way pilot is shown how much fuel remains, you are also given a simple bar, giving you a blanket of comfort that time is on your side if the bar is filled, or further increasing your panic once it drops low. The targets range between air, such as bombers and jets, and ground, a bridge, a base, air defenses, simple stuff that works really well with the simple gameplay. Play, test, observe and learn. You may get shot down once, but the next time SAM won't stand a chance because you have figured out its location by letting it shoot you down. The final mission hits you against a giant flying fortress. It was a true test to my piloting abilities. I had to learn how to avoid fortresses' air defenses, keep out of the harm's way from the protecting planes, and cycle correctly between the targets. On my 4th attempt, I have managed to win, with just fumes remaining in my gas tank. Pretty awesome. Another interesting mechanic is the economic system. As a mercenary, you are bound to fund your efforts through your pay. Losing a plane means it's no more. Running out of planes is game over. But no worries. There is a save system, leaving you with the choice. A roguelike experience on one hand, an endless supply of lives and airplanes on the other. I chose the latter because the game is already intense for a newbie like me. Well, you can make it hard for yourself if you want to. The planes all fly similarly, but the pool is vast. You start with the veteran F4 and move further to F14, 15, 16 and so on. Or would you like to fly a MiG? Suit yourself. Do you prefer iconic A10 or F117? The game has got you covered. Once you buy a plane, it comes with a tricolor paint job, which is a neat little feature. You can also hire a pilot to help you out, though I found them mostly useless. Then again, it's worth just for this victory screen. And as for your motivation, well, the game is purposefully vague. I did not mind. I have always found stories in many video games to be an unnecessary carrot on the stick. I like to walk the walk or fly the fly because I want to, for the sake of it. And the lack of story in such setting is justified. Hell, even welcome.
War. War never changes. Or does it? The war has changed. Did it?
Ultimately, air combat came as an unexpected surprise. I expected an obsolete game for an obsolete hardware, and instead it took just one game to prove my misconception about the era wrong. At this point, I was addicted to red squares and constant beep that signaled a successful radar lock. A robotic voice calling out bingo and turning around with the help of BFM. Basic fighter maneuvers. Who needs legs when you have wings, right? We're not there just yet. Air combat could be considered as a phenomenal proof of concept. Ace Combat 2 masters that proof to achieve its full potential. Ugly looking environment? Gone. Now a mountain range looks like one. Stiffness of the controls? Gone as well. Now it's as smooth as PlayStation 1 allows it to be. Draw distance is also massively improved. Planes resemble their real-life counterparts so much more. Only shame is that the white, purple, orange paint job got dropped. I'll miss you, old friend. Some of the planes are neatly animated as well. For example, look at this F-14. Wonderful. Enemy behavior as well. Allies now resemble actual pilots. No more you will face moving obstacles. Your foes can now fly an actual fighter jet. So beware. Missions now also contain tougher enemies, the Aces, which you have to actively search for. They usually fly advanced hardware and tend to be a great additional challenge if you want to test your luck or skill. The mission design upped the ante as well. Often the objectives are much more dynamic, whether it's you defending a downed plane from combined air-ground force or chasing bombers through the clouds. Believe it or not, Ace Combat 2 has introduced an incredible feature of weather that dynamically affects the levels, and is honestly pretty impressive for a PlayStation 1 game. For each mission you can hire an ally. I have always picked Edge because she gave me an edge. Anyway. I especially enjoyed how much more relaxed Ace Combat 2 is. While it may have turned gameplay into summer breeze for some, it provided me with much more space to truly enjoy the gameplay sandbox and learn the ropes of what it truly means to be an ace. Decreased tension allowed me to experiment so much more, and I was learning, alright, what if I, instead of turning sideways, turned by going up, decelerating and then accelerating to prevent the stall? What if I get behind the chasing jet simply by slowing down? I have turned target cycling into my second nature, and instead of panicked missile dodging, it was now a simple drill of keeping one eye on the minimap and turning at the right moment, so the sting harmlessly scoops right by. Air Combat turned me into an ace through blood and sweat. Ace Combat through freedom of experimentation. Another thing that was touched upon is the progression and economic system. You receive much more generous amounts of cash, especially considering how failing now detracts only a small fee from your bank, instead of downright purging the plane from the plane of existence. And the more you engage with the game's sandbox, the more you receive. The exercise in freedom made me so much more cocky. This time I would risk the entire mission just for sake of taking down that pesky enemy ace for that good feeling and bounty on the top. One almost thinks that the power fantasy was introduced intentionally, so one overstays their welcome and then the same sense of urgency reappears as you're scrambling to barely finish the mission with little fuel left. Abundance in income is not all that bad, as you can really afford to buy and test every single plane, and pay wingmen to help you out on top. Maybe they could tone it down a little, but who cares. The plane selection did not disappoint in this game either. My favorite newcomer was instantly X-29, which I somehow considered to be an imaginary piece by the developers, just to learn it was a real plane developed by United States in the 80s to test the forward wings.
Forward-swept wings have only recently become practical with the advent of super strong composite materials that resist natural bending and twisting. The X-29 requires a new breed of aeronautical technology. Because its thin wings, close-coupled canards, the smaller movable surfaces in front of the wings, and rear strake flaps make it naturally unstable in flight. A fail-safe triple redundant computer compensates for the instability by pulsing minute corrections, about 40 times each second, to the controls, smoothing out any unstable effects.
The computers are as necessary to fly the airplane as the hydraulic system is that actually moves the actuators.
Truly a remarkable machine. And so is Ace Combat 2, truly a remarkable game. Perhaps the closest to perfect in the entirety of the series. The only small flaw was the concerning development and reappearance of tight ravine missions. A worrying premise, or as literally circles call it, foreshadowing. Ace Combat 3 is, if anything, the most interesting game in the entirety of series, whereas Ace Combat 1 or Ace Combat 2 are fairly straightforward, simple games. Electrosphere is an endless maze. Ace Combat 2 seeks perfection, and Ace Combat 3 is fueled by ambition. The first thing that punches you in the nose is the style. Round UI elements prompt you to enter your profile name. A tasty jungle drum and bass fills the background with a fresh new vibe, so very distant to the usual Top Gun-inspired crunchy guitar tunes. If you wait long enough, this incredibly cool intro plays out. Artistic department has had a field day on this one. Then you get your first jet, Eurofighter 2000. Nice, and in you go. And that's where the trouble began. The game gives you a simple introduction to the story, akin to previous games. Yet, you do expect more. After all, the game sets such expectations with the intro. Nothing is to come. The missions feel mute. You just kind of do things. Not much is being told to you. There are targets, you destroy them because the previous two games did not have much of a story. But the briefings gave you a good overview of the situation. And truth to be told, you did not need to know why you're here. All you needed to know is that you have to kill. But Electrosphere evokes questions and then it refuses to give any answers. There are no money rewards after the mission, and I could not obtain any new planes. Is the game bugged? I asked. Mere intuition soon became a suspicion, and after finishing the 4th level, I turned to good old Google to give me some answers. What is wrong? Well, turns out the version for Western market was localized with a special sugar-free formula. In other words, it was entirely stripped of the story, voiceovers, and around a third of the missions. My gut feeling was right, and I stood on a preface of choice. Either I play the American bare-bones version, or I get myself the Japanese version and attempt to navigate through it with help of sheer guesswork. Even if it means that story becomes unintelligible Japanese-sounding mess. Basically like any other anime. Let's go Japanese. And thus I found there is a third option, and thank God for that. In 2009, a group of dedicated fans formed a Project Nemo, an attempt to fully localize a game containing 52 missions and several hours worth of cutscenes from Japanese to English. And after 7 long years, in 2016, it finally came out. So, huge shout out and thanks to Dragon Spike 8, BRPXQZME, PMT7AR, Esper Knight, Dashman, Green Rose, Iceman UK. And here I was once again enjoying the fresh intro screen, entering my name. My skin was tingling, eagerly awaiting what's around the corner, in the Electrosphere. This time around, Ace Team has made massive efforts to push the game to its limits. There is such overwhelming amount of content that only Ace Combat 5 comes close to how much this heavyweight champion contains. Electrosphere features slick, modern feeling aesthetic. Another noticeable yet hard to believe improvement to the visuals, which in combination with the futuristic vibe creates truly awe-inducing and jaw-dropping first impression. Gameplay has received a healthy dose of additional features as well, though drive for innovation has caused many unnecessary shifts in the game's direction. For each step forward, there are 2 steps back. Free look is a fantastic feature, especially useful for advanced players and gamers who, through evolution, manage to overcome motion sickness and have heightened orientation senses. I'm in no such luck, but I still appreciate the feature, which has become a staple to the franchise. There is an introduction to alternative weapons, which is great. However, they are relatively underwhelming to use, and I would not recommend them outside experimentation purposes. Your two standard missiles are still a way to go. Perhaps the only real fun alternative are the unguided bombs. Their range and precision makes for some dopamine-inducing moments where you snipe entire air-ground forces from far aback before they even have a chance to fight back, and they come with the basic missiles attached if you want to engage the planes as well. What a deal, 2 in 1 baby! The game throws in some old and new jets, many of them fully fictional and ever so stylish. Too bad your choice is heavily limited by the story, which makes it much more difficult to truly enjoy all these marvelous machines. The missions are numerous, often changing based on your campaign choices, but the sandboxy approach from the second game is gone in favor of more scripted formula, often with arbitrary, basic and bare-bones boring objectives. Not all of them are bad, but some are truly mind-numbingly dumb, and the ratio is not exactly favorable. For each good mission, there is one that is either underwhelming or worse. Destroy 20 pillars while invincible plane chases you down. Tail this slow-moving jet for 10 minutes, and the most insulting one is the space mission.
Space. It's so beautiful.
What do you do in the wondrous beauty of space? You shoot down 3 motionless satellites. That's literally it. To make things worse, countless objectives have a hidden timer attached to them. That means that instead of engaging optional content with your heart's contempt, you are much more motivated to ignore it and focus purely on the objective. And this is a real shame because there are some genuinely well designed and enjoyable missions on display, but the game loves to put you in your place and adds many filler, boring or downright unfair scenarios and scripted events to the mix. Oh no! Mama, please! No! 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 And that is not all. Somehow I could not really understand how to avoid missiles in this game. As if some magical power took away from me the ability that I so naturally possessed in Ace Combat 2. And perhaps I would assume a fault is at my side, that I simply have to relearn this essential skill. Except the game counts on you getting hit. In Electrosphere you fly an air tank, capable of shrugging missiles off like a seasoned quarterback pushing his way through puny defenders. Another element makes me believe that this is intentional, because if you drop to the ground in Electrosphere, Trampoline System TM bounces you right off the ground, with a bit of damage. Funny, odd, immersion breaking. But most importantly, it reduces the stakes that are already low due to lack of any repercussions outside the obvious need for a retry. Ace Combat 3 Electrosphere is a flawed product that however fully makes up for everything with distinct personality and mountains of content. Too bad quantity is not always quality. But Ace Combat 3 has another thing in store. A story. The story is an entirely new element in Ace Combat series, and the sheer amount of content within the story would put your average Season 1 of many animes to shame. The story is told through video messages and communication channels in the missions. Between the mission segments can achieve absolutely ridiculous length. While they were playing, I have managed to find a wife, plant a tree and finally learn how to knit. Before I get into the hard meat of the story, I would just like to appreciate how well it works alongside the gameplay. Air Combat and Ace Combat 2 work really well, thanks to lack of story, since the formula does not really need it to begin with, and therefore a successful implementation of it can be seen as quite an achievement. World building elements are plentiful, whether it's bits and pieces of lore in form of video messages from other pilots that address you directly, news flashes reflecting in-game events, or participation of said pilots in the missions, often on both sides. What also helps is a small scope of all events. That makes the whole ordeal feel as a localized conflict between two corporations, rather than a massive war effort showcased in further installments. This limits a little bit of absurd motion that one singular pilot can single-handedly turn the tide of war. The story revolves around an imaginary country of Usia, on a plane called Strange Real, which is dominated by two major corporations. General Resource and Newcom are both pretty much in control of the entirety of Usia. General Resource succeeded due to its monopolistic predispositions. Newcom is currently on the way to overtake them, as their entire shtick is research and focus on knowledge, which ultimately has a better future prospect than monopoly on currency and property. And between those two rival factions stands UPEO, which is basically a remnant of government and Strange Real's version of United Nations peacekeepers. What I absolutely adore is how each faction's jets reflect their status in the world. General Resource has current heist and jets at their disposal. Newcom has their own experimental aircraft, which is on its way to be the best new thing. Or perhaps is the best already. The artistic department nailed the looks on both near-future General Resource jets and sci-fi stylized Newcoms. And naturally UPEO Peacekeeping Force gets the equivalent of what real-world United Nations peacekeepers receive. Scrap from last generation that would otherwise rot in a forgotten warehouse, and funny blue heads. That Eurofighter 2000 doesn't look all that appealing, now that I think of it. Unlike United Nations Peacekeeping Force, UPEO however doesn't fuck around. They are like a riled up pitbull with twitchy red eyes waiting for either lion on one side or bear on the other to make a move, so they can start ripping and tearing. Peace through violence and destruction. America, fuck yeah! And that's where you come in. An unknown ace working in UPEO that is meant to assure neither of the corpos bites each other's heads off. This setup is absolutely genius. It makes sense that General Resource is likely planning to attack Newcom before their technology advances too far to be competed with, but at the same time Newcom wouldn't mind a bit of combat themselves, as that would provide a valuable feedback on how to defeat General Resource. And the aging equipment of UPEO will eventually give in, regardless of skill their pilots possess. And that is the only wall that stands in the way of uncontrolled corporate war. In other words, the conflict is simply inevitable. As you progress through the game, you may eventually leave UPEO and end up in bed with any of these filthy corpos. Which leads us to the fourth faction, Ouroboros, led by mighty Dijon.
はい、まさにその通りですね。そこで我々としてはゼネラルリソース本社に特別な取材許可を申請しました。その結果今回はなんとゼネラルリソース防衛部隊隊長アビサル・ディジョン氏が先ほどビデオフォンを通じて我々の疑問に直接答えてくれました。
それでは早速その模様を VTR でご覧
I just want mustard, no ketchup. If you got like a spicy mustard or something like that, or a Dijon mustard, something like that, Dijon mustard, something like that, or Dijon mustard, something like that.
President, Vice President had hamburgers for lunch. President reportedly had Dijon mustard.
He asked if they had any Dijon mustard.
Who eats a cheeseburger with Dijon mustard? What is that?
He doesn't like ketchup?
What kind of man orders a cheeseburger without ketchup, but Dijon mustard?
For now, he is General Resources General, but his plans reach far beyond that. He believes that our physical form is what drives our desires, and therefore allows corporations such as General Resource and Newcomb to rise, as their success is granted by fulfilling such desires, for the price. So he forms a fourth faction, Ouroboros, whose ultimate goal is to turn everyone into a computed program, a shared consciousness stored in Electrosphere. And to prove that, he is the first to turn into ones and zeros. And what is his plan? Simple. Through careful manipulation, pit everyone against each other, and once they're weak, take over. When two are fighting, the third is laughing. Depending on your choices and who you side with, the game goes into different directions. Often these directions are represented by one or two friendly pilots, who stay with you till the end, if you stay loyal to them. And ultimately I won't go through every single one of these branching stories, because I would be here forever, and that is not the point of this story. Electrosphere, like many other transhumanist stories, such as Blade Runner or Ghost in the Shell, are not keen on providing answers, but asking questions. Questions without easy solutions or with none to begin with, such as, is peace worth any price, even if it means corporations will rule the world? What is life? Can it be silicon? Do goals justify your means? Is our physical form what drives our desires, or is it purely part of our humanity regardless? And as long as you are willing to give Electrosphere time, it's full of many underlying themes and thought-provoking ideas. And if you stick with the game long enough to achieve all alternative ends, the true ending is revealed to you. You have been an AI program in training all along, and all of it has been just a simulation all along. Sucks, right? No, I am aware of this taste for such endings, but just for your information, every single video game story is a simulation. Every time you boot up a game, it simulates what if a certain potential scenario would have happened with help of ones and zeros. It's never real, it's always a dream. So why would such reveal break it? I think it enhanced my experience. And hey, I am aware of suspension of disbelief and how a reveal that it's never happened in the game world can ruin the story for some of you, but it's still something to think about. And context matters, because Electrosphere uses this concept to play to its strengths. Throughout the game there are many subtle hints and some less subtle ones that lead to the final reveal. The fact that you're never to be found in your quarters and everyone has to send you video vlogs. Or that you can see many events happening through security camera footage, or the more obvious parts when you start hacking and deleting Dijon and then plunge into virtual space for one last epic boss fight. This way an observant player can deduce the ending entirely on their own without ever game revealing it. I love when developers leave trail of breadcrumbs for people who are intrigued in figuring everything out before the beans are spilled. I personally believed that the player is a long-deceased ace stored in Electrosphere. called upon to keep peace between the corporations when things start to crumble. I was wrong, but if I weren't to chase the true ending, this theory might have lived on in my head. And that is awesome. Air combat is a motherfucking bomb. Dropping down bars, with it you can go wrong. Let me tell you why in this song. Coming with the style, faster than a missile. Adrenaline dogfighting is your bell and whistle. Lock on, get the right angle so you don't miss. Boogie down, going down, it's nothing but pure bliss. My colors are orange, purple and white. Give me some insurgency, I need a good fight. Up in the sky, air feels so fresh. Jet fuel and sweat make for a proper match. Even though some missions are really bloody hard, kickstart your career, you'll be an ace for real. Ace Combat 2 is like a hand from a demigod. Put on your flysuit and get in the pod. Like a hawk scaring clouds, watching for a prey. Ace Combat 2 improves in every single way. Dancing in the sky just flows so smooth. Competition fighting, nail and tooth. Slashing some missiles will give you an edge. Do the nose dive to keep yourself alive. X-29 is so mighty fine. It's the best plane in the entire game, the entire series. Peace! Ace Combat 3 US version is a sad joke. Who's there to the rescue? It's a Team Nemo, they are fly like a halo, with style of an eagle. Electrosphere, rounded with the flavor of mighty Dijon sauce, plus humanistic story, with the attitude. Too bad the gameplay is so crude. Let me get straight to the source. Sometimes the quality strikes stronger than quantity, and innovation's cost is never lost. This way you progress the most. And Electrosphere has taught us a lot in this lot. Stuff. Coming in the next one, the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye. Yeah, I suck at this video making game, but who cares?